Hello and welcome to my channel. Today is Monday, so that means it's time for True Crime Tales. And it's a doozy. Yeah. And also, I want to go back to this. I've said this in many segments. Why is it that every serial killer I seem to cover is involved in the United States Army? Is it like training ground for serial killers? Like, anyway, let's get started. We have a trigger warning, caution, graphic content warning, whatever you want to call it. The usual. Rape, murder, you know. Joseph Roy Metheny was an American murderer and rapist and suspected serial killer from the Baltimore, Maryland area. While he claimed to have killed 13 people, sufficient evidence was only found to convict him of 2. Metheny's attorney said his mother neglected her 6 children while she worked double shifts outside the home, that his father was an alcoholic who was killed in a car accident when Metheny was 6, and that he suffered from depression. Metheny said that his parents often sent him to live with other families in foster-like arrangements. His mother said she had to work multiple jobs, and they were financially poor, but she had provided her children with a normal family life, and the children had never gone hungry or been put into homes of other families as Metheny had claimed. She said that Metheny was an above-average student, always polite and not mean as a child. She said he was smart and had a good childhood. If he was neglected, it was his own fault. It was a pretty good home. Metheny joined the United States Army in 1973. His mother said that he had served in Germany, although he claimed that he served in Vietnam and had become addicted to heroin while in an artillery unit there. His mother said that she had no recollection of him serving in Vietnam, and the circumstances of his service were reported as unverified in press reports. American involvement in Vietnam had ended by that time. Metheny seldom contacted his mother after he joined the Army. She said he just kept drifting further and further away. I think the worst thing that ever happened to him was drugs. It's a sad, sad story. Metheny was given the ironic nickname Tiny in the 1990s as he was 6'1", extremely large and obese. He spent much of his time drinking in bars and lived with groups of homeless men in makeshift camps in South Baltimore. Nearly all of his money was spent on crack cocaine, heroin, and liquor. Sounds like my ex. However, he held a steady job as a forklift driver and was described as intelligent, well-spoken, and very well-mannered. Metheny murdered Catherine Ann Magaziner in 1994 and buried her body in a shallow grave on the side of the factory where he worked. He later said that he had strangled her and that he dug up her skeleton 6 months later, put her head in a box, and threw it in the trash. I don't know why nobody had found the body. There really was no explanation as to what the significance of doing this with the head was. But nobody had found the body. She was a skeleton by then, you know, like, I guess maybe so that they couldn't identify her by dental records, maybe? I honestly don't know. Metheny was tried for murder in a different case in 1995 for allegedly killing 2 homeless men, Randall Brewer and Randy Piker, with an axe at 10th City under Baltimore's Hanover Street Bridge. So, basically like a homeless camp is what that is. Okay, well, not everybody knows what homeless camps are because not everybody is true crime like me. So homeless camps are like where like a bunch of like homeless people like congregate, and it's usually in a place that isn't often visited by police or is less likely to be visited by police. They're really popular on Skid Row. They're really popular in, I think, Pittsburgh. They're really popular in Detroit. These are kind of the places where you would find these at. But it can cause problems and it can get out of like control there because a lot of these people are on drugs, a lot of these people are alcoholics, some are mentally ill and not medicated, so like there tends to be like a lot of fighting within these camps. So like when people go missing from these camps, it's not like extremely unusual, and obviously nobody's keeping track of the homeless people, so like it can go years without anybody even realizing that like anybody who's homeless was missing. And I've learned this from doing the missing and murdered segments, where I do unsolved missing persons and unsolved murders, and some of the people that like the bodies were found in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, are just now being identified, and families are like, oh, that's my kid, that's my son or daughter, whatever, because they had been a runaway. They were homeless and they had run away from home. So most of them didn't even know that their kids were missing to begin with, or if they had been missing, they'd given up hope on finding them at that point. So I wouldn't say it's probably in a way a relief to find out your kid is dead, but I mean, to find out what happened to them, I think would be some relief. I don't really know, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, nobody keeps track of these people, and it's really sad. Rival groups of homeless men were involved in mutual disputes, and one of them, Larry Amos, was convicted of stealing the murder weapon and later using it to kill Everett Dowell, another homeless man. Brewer's and Piker's bodies were discovered on August 2nd, 1995, the same day that Dowell was murdered. Amos was arrested, accused of first-degree murder, and pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter. He was released after serving 1 year and 9 months of an 8-year sentence. A jury concluded in July of 1996 there was insufficient evidence to convict Metheny of murdering Brewer and Piker, but Metheny later said that he had committed those murders. Metheny killed Kimberly Lynn Spicer in mid-November 1996 by stabbing her with a knife. He kidnapped Rita Kemper on December 8, 1996, and attempted to rape her. According to prosecutors, he shared drugs with Kemper in the trailer where he was living at the pallet factory site. She refused to have sex with him and ran out of the trailer, so he chased her, beat her, dragged her back into the trailer, and then pulled down her pants and attempted to rape her. Kemper said he had attempted to murder her, saying, quote, "I'm going to kill you and bury you in the woods with the other girls," end quote. She escaped through a window of the trailer and fled to police officers in the area. Metheny then asked a friend to help him bury the body of Spicer, which he had been hiding at the factory site since killing her a month earlier. The friend reported it to the police, good for him, on December 15th of 1996, and Metheny was arrested, or her, I should say him or her, because it could be male or female, to specify. And Metheny was arrested and charged with their murder the same day. The owner of the business was arrested with Metheny as they left a Christmas party and was charged as an accessory after the fact for allegedly disposing of evidence. Metheny began confessing to other murders, as well as that of Spicer. He led police to the shallow grave where he had reburied Magaziner's decapitated remains. Much of the skull was missing, but the police were able to identify Magaziner from dental records. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, you took the skull and you, like, threw it in put it in a box, threw it in the river, the lake, the pond, the whatever. But they still had her teeth. And they were able to identify her. So I just would love to know what the thought process behind getting rid of the head was when you left behind the one thing that they probably could have identified, and that's her teeth. Just saying. Police said that he had chosen young white sex workers who were addicted to heroin and cocaine. The killings also involved brutal sexual assaults. He was indicted for killing Tony Lynn Ingracio, age 28, but those charges were later dropped for lack of evidence. He claims to have also killed 3 other prostitutes along Washington Boulevard in Baltimore, although there was no evidence of most of those crimes other than his confession. And you know what, like, normally I would be the one to be like, oh, well, he said he did it, then he probably did it. But I literally did a segment on Henry Lee Lucas, who confessed to, like, fucking everything for, like, special privileges and you know, freedoms and whatnot. But, he didn't do them. I think he even took credit for, like, one of Ted Bundy's victims. Yeah, it was apparently he just wanted cheeseburgers. I don't know, but yeah. So there are such things as false confessions. Sometimes other killers like to take credit for others' work because it makes them look badass. You know, whatever. Not badass in a good way, by the way. Badass in a shitty way because you're a shitty person for doing this. Just saying. He said that he had thrown bodies in the Pasco, sorry if I said that wrong, River, and they had never been found. The Baltimore Sun reported in 1997 that it was not clear how truthful his claims were about how many people he had killed, although he said that he had killed up to 10 people. His attorney said that he was remorseful and that drugs and alcohol had changed his personality and made him violent. He was tried in 1997 in the Kemper case and given a sentence of 50 years for kidnapping and attempted sexual assault. He was acquitted of attempting to murder. He was sentenced to death in 1998 for the murder of Spicer. At his sentencing hearing, he said that he committed murders because he enjoyed it, he got a rush out of it, he got a high out of it, and, quote, had no real excuse why other than I liked it, end quote. Sounds like Ted Bundy, honestly. Except that Ted Bundy never really admitted that he did anything and spent his whole court trial talking about the killer like he wasn't the killer, so yeah, you know. In August 1998, he pleaded guilty to murdering and robbing Magaziner, and prosecutors sought the death penalty in that case as well. He received a sentence of life in prison in that case. His death sentence was overturned in 2001, and the sentence for the murder of Spicer was reduced to life without parole. The rationale for the death penalty was that the murder had been committed while committing a robbery. That's a lot of commit there, sorry. But the evidence indicated that robbery was clearly not his motive. I think it's pretty evident that by his own admittance that it was about the murder. It was not about what he got from the robbery. He killed because he wanted to, because he liked to kill. So that's what it was really about. It was never about assets or money or anything else. Metheny was found dead in his prison cell at the Western Correctional Institute in Cumberland, Maryland on August 5th, 2017 at the age of 62. Honestly, couldn't have happened to a nicer person. I could not find out how he died though, so I don't know if it was like natural causes or if maybe like one of his inmates got tired of him, you know? Anyway, yeah, so that's the story of Metheny, which ironic, I love the name, because like when people talk about people on drugs, they'll refer to them as like Metheny or meth heads, especially if they're female. But it just, every time I say his name, it kind of made me giggle in my head because it was like, this is fitting for you. This is a great name for you. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. It was kind of a short one, but you know, can't always be guaranteed to have a lot of information. It's kind of the same when it comes to the missing and murder segments. They're either ridiculously long or ridiculously short, and there's never really an in-between because it really just depends on how much information there is and whether or not they've been identified or they've been, you know, if they've had any sort of information as to how they died. Made it all the way to the end as to how they died or whatnot. So it really just kind of depends on what you can find. With that being said, we will have a new segment on Wednesday, the missing and murdered. I am finally starting to feel normal again, so I'm going to get back into routine. At least that's the hope. Hopefully nothing else decides to go wild, okay? Anyway, as always, please don't do anything I wouldn't do. Make good choices and be cautiously kind to others. And I'll see y'all Wednesday. Bye.